I believe some of the problems that you're having with these is the interval notation. Now, on this problem, we're looking for the domain, and the domain comes from our x values, so we're looking for the x values. The leftmost one will be what we put first, and since there's a solid dot here at -1, that's why they have that with a bracket with -1. And the rightmost point here corresponds with the 4. And it's a solid dot on that end also. So we've got that. My brackets look a little off. But anyway, that's why they got that for an answer on that part. And the range comes from our y value. So we've got to see our lowest. Oh, this is not right. There it is. The lowest, it's hard to hit it when it's tiny, but is -4, and it actually hits there. So we've got a bracket at -4 for our lowest point. And then our highest point hits here, up here at 6. Not that I'm good at hitting that either, but anyway, hopefully you can tell that that dot goes as high as the 6 on the y-axis. And since it's a solid dot, we have another bracket. So that's why that is the answer for our range. Now the x-intercept is at x equals, and we just go on our x-axis and find out where it crosses, and it crosses right there at the 2. So that's why we have x equals 2 for the x-intercept. For the y-intercept, we want to see where it crosses the y-axis, and in this case it crosses the y-axis right there at 4. So we have y equals 4 for the y-intercept. And I hope that helps. I'm going to go ahead, I know these are in reverse order, but go to the next page and go to the next problem that you were having. The last thing that we're supposed to find on here, and I didn't have that written down, is the function at -1. That was the e part. And I had to scroll down on that, so I kind of missed that. But, so what we're going to do is we're going to go over on our graph to the -1 for x, and then we're going to follow it. So here's -1 for x, and we're going to follow it until we find out what the value is that goes with that, the y value that goes with that. And I know this has gotten a little bit messy, but that looks like it is right at 6. That's our highest point. So f at -1 is equal to 6. Now this is the other problem you had, and I believe these are in reverse order, but so it's probably the first problem that you'd ask me about. So we're going to use this graph to determine the function's domain. So we're going to see how what the x values are that go with this graph. And basically that tells you the leftmost point and the rightmost point. Now it's hard to see with this one, but it keeps going up and gets wider and wider. So our x values keep growing. They'll get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's why the domain is from -infinity to +infinity, because as far out as we want to go, we'll be able to match that number up with some point on our graph, because it'll keep getting wider. The range is the numbers that we get from our y-axis. So we're looking for the lowest number that it goes to. And that number, I didn't hit it again, great, but it's at -1. So, and it actually does hit there. It's a solid line there. So the lowest point is -1. And what's the highest point? Well, these keep going up and up again. So we don't have a highest point. It just keeps going. So that's why we have infinity for our other point, the end of our interval notation, because it really doesn't end. And as always, with infinity or negative infinity, we have a parentheses. MyMathLab is very picky about the interval notation, the use of the parentheses and the brackets and everything, because it means something entirely different if you've mixed that up. So the x-intercepts on this one, where does it cross the x-axis? those points, and I'll see how well I can hit them, are there and there. And on our x-axis, those numbers correspond with -1 and +1. And those are just, you just type the integers and use your comma to separate those two. And that's what the way they like that one written. For your y-intercept, what we want is, where does it cross the y-axis? And that's the point right down here. And that's at -1. So that's why they have the y-intercept at -1. For the last two parts, it wants to know what the function is at -2. So we just follow the graph and at -2, and then at +2 it wants to know what it is, which is over here. So we follow that until we see what number corresponds with that. And on each of these, it's at 3, because it's the same on both sides. That number there is 3. So we have f at -2 is 3, and f at +2 is at 3. I hope this helps.